Hello there, very good evening and welcome to the news at 6. Glad you could join us this Saturday evening on Rajya Sabha TV. Here are the headlines of this hour. Prime Minister Narendra Modi chairs the session of the India's business reforms, says India's ease of doing business ranking will improve even more next year when the GST impact will be taken into account. BJP continues high-voltage campaign in Himachal Pradesh. Prime Minister Modi addresses rallies, urges voters in the state to defeat the Congress and get rid of corruption. US President Donald Trump leaves on an 11-day trip to Asia. Five-nation tour that includes Japan, South Korea, China, Vietnam and the Philippines will be the longest by any US president in 25 years. And in the Asian boxing meet at Ho Chi Minh City, five-time world champion Mary Kom enters the semi-finals along with teammates Shiksha and Priyanka Chaudhary. Speaking at a session on India's business reforms, Prime Minister Narendra Modi listed the initiatives and reforms that his government pushed through in all possible sectors and culminated in an improvement in the ease of doing business ranking from 142 to 100. The Prime Minister said that he was also confident that India's business ranking, in fact, will improve further. Here's a report.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi chaired a session of the India's Business Reforms event in the national capital on Saturday. After the recent World Bank rankings, the Prime Minister exuded confidence that India's ease of doing business ranking will only rise further post-GST.
We are now among the top 100 countries in the doing business rankings. In a short time of 3 years, we have improved 42 ranks. There are a few other reforms where our team and the World Bank team need to find common ground. All this combined with our conviction to do even better gives me the confidence that India will occupy a place of a pride in the World Bank report next year and in the year thereafter.
Praising the One Nation, One Tax regime, the Prime Minister said GST had provided a stable and transparent taxation regime.
One life, one mission. यही काम है. मेरा देश, मेरे देश के 125 करोड़ लोग, उनकी जिंदगी में कुछ बदलाव लाना. As you all know, GST is the biggest tax reform in the Indian economy, and it impacts many aspects of doing business. With GST, we are moving towards a modern tax regime, which is transparent, stable and predictable.
Listing out the other initiatives of his government, the Prime Minister said manufacturing and infrastructure sectors are being given a big push. FDI reforms have taken place in 21 sectors and there have also been reforms in defence, railways, construction, insurance, pension, civil aviation and pharmaceutical sectors.
Our mantra is reform, perform and transform. We have resolved a number of regulatory and policy issues facing business and companies. Along with manufacturing, we are also pushing for faster progress in infrastructure sector. Therefore, we are continuously working to improve our investment climate. In the last 3.5 years, we have undertaken bold foreign direct investment reforms in 21 sectors, covering 87 areas of policy.
Inviting investments, the Prime Minister said the reforms undertaken by his government are far more extensive and would help businesses. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And now let's get you all the election-related news in Verdict 2017. Prime Minister Narendra Modi was in Himachal Pradesh on Saturday campaigning for his party in the upcoming assembly elections. He once again disparaged the ruling Congress in the state, likening it to termites. He urged people in the state to wipe out the party and get rid of corruption.
Continuing his tirade against the Congress, Prime Minister Narendra Modi said on Saturday that the party has already conceded defeat in Himachal Pradesh. He said senior leaders of the party have run away from campaigning, leaving Chief Minister Bharat Singh alone to his fate.
कांग्रेस के केंद्र के सारे नेता हिमाचल में कोई आ ही नहीं रहा है। मैदान छोड़ दिया है। उन्होंने पराजय स्वीकार कर लिया है।
Addressing a public rally in Kangra district, the Prime Minister launched a blistering attack on the Congress over corruption.
कांग्रेस पार्टी 8 तारीख को ब्लैक मनी डे मनाने वाली है। अगर कांग्रेस पार्टी ये सोचती है कि मोदी के पुतले जलाने से मोदी डर जाएगा, तो तुम्हें पता नहीं है ये सरदार पटेल का चेला है, ऐसे झुकने वाला नहीं है।
In his speech, the Prime Minister sought a strong mandate in favor of the BJP, assuring people that his party would take the state to new heights of development. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And in the face of an onslaught from the opposition BJP, Chief Minister Bharat Singh is putting up a brave front. The Congress veteran is on a whirlwind tour of the state in a bid to woo voters before the November 9th polls.
Deflecting the opposition BJP's attack against his government, Himachal Pradesh Chief Minister Bharat Singh said it had in fact done a lot for development in the state.
अब ये तसल्ली है कि 5 वर्षों के अंदर इस हल्के के अंदर इतना विकास हुआ है जो कि शायद 10 साल में नहीं होगा। ये मगर विकास की कोई हद नहीं है, विकास की कोई सीमा नहीं है।
Bharat Singh said the Congress is the only party that can provide safety, security and employment to the people in the state. He also sought votes for his son Vikramaditya Singh, who is contesting for the first time.
जो आपकी है वो इसको उस मुकाम में पहुंचाने के काबिल है। मैं इसलिए नहीं है कि वो एक मेरे परिवार से आते हैं, वो अंदर वो सारी काबिलियत है जो कि एक अच्छे एमएलए के अंदर होनी चाहिए।
The rally was organized in the Sunni township of rural Shimla constituency. While Bharat Singh sidestepped the BJP's allegations on corruption, other speakers defended him. Bharat Singh addressed 7 rallies alone on Saturday with no central leader accompanying him.
Though this is one of the most prestigious seats for Chief Minister Bharat Singh, but he is fighting like a warrior. And not only this constituency, but whole of Himachal Pradesh is a prestige for him. It will be interesting to see that how people turn up for vote in favor of him. Akhilesh Suman for Rajya Sabha Television with camera person Sudhanshu in Sunni.
And our correspondent Akhilesh Suman also spoke to BJP's chief ministerial candidate Prem Kumar Dhumal in Shimla. Dhumal seemed confident that the BJP would form government in the state.
प्रेम कुमार धूमल बीजेपी की तरफ से मुख्यमंत्री पद के लिए नामित किए गए हैं। हमारे साथ है धूमल जी। धूमल जी, जीएसटी और डीमोनेटाइजेशन का इस चुनाव पे क्या असर पड़ेगा?
देखिए, डीमोनेटाइजेशन का प्रदेश में कोई प्रभाव नहीं पड़ा था। जब हुआ था तब भी किसी को दिक्कत नहीं आई थी। हिमाचल प्रदेश एक ऐसा प्रदेश था जहां कहीं एटीएम के आगे लाइन नहीं लगी, किसी ने कैश क्रंच की बात नहीं कही थी, तो वहाँ यहाँ पर वो कोई मुद्दा ही नहीं है। जीएसटी के ऊपर स्वयं कांग्रेस ने यहाँ विधानसभा में मुख्यमंत्री ने जब बिल इंट्रोड्यूस किया तो कहा कि ये कांग्रेस की सोच की देन है। कांग्रेस ने सोचा था, कांग्रेस ने बिल इंट्रोड्यूस किया, कांग्रेस ने अपनी मर्जी के संशोधन करवाए और बेनिफिट्स उन्होंने बताया, एक देश एक मार्केट एक टैक्स लगेगा, कॉस्ट ऑफ प्रोडक्शन डाउन होगी, इसका लाभ होगा। उन्होंने ये भी कहा कि इससे जीडीपी 1.5 से 2% बढ़ जाएगी। तो उनको खुद समर्थन किया, उन्होंने तो पास कराया, हम तो सर्वसम्मति से साथ दिया उसको पास करने में। तो ये केवल मात्र एक प्रचार है चुनाव के लिए, और इसका राहुल गांधी प्रचार कर रहे हैं। राहुल गांधी को खुद समझ नहीं आता जीएसटी क्या है, क्योंकि उनके समय में उनको पता ही नहीं। इंट्रोड्यूस तो प्रणब मुखर्जी ने किया इस बिल को।
हाँ, लेकिन लोग बोलते हैं कि व्यापारी बहुत नाराज है बीजेपी से।
व्यापारी बीजेपी से नाराज नहीं, व्यापारी कांग्रेस से नाराज है हिमाचल में, क्योंकि बाकी प्रदेशों में जो एग्जेम्पशन लिमिट है वो 20 लाख है, इन्होंने 10 लाख रखी है। मैंने कह दिया है पहले ही सरकार बनते ही हम इसको 20 लाख कर देंगे।
अच्छा, एक आखिरी सवाल है सर कि बहुत सारे विक्षुब्ध बीजेपी के खिलाफ खड़े हैं।
बहुत सारे नहीं, इक्का दुक्का है, वो भी बैठ रहे हैं और बैठ जाएंगे।
तो प्रेम कुमार धूमल का कहना है कि विक्षुब्धों पर कोई असर नहीं पड़ेगा इस चुनाव परिणाम पे, और जीएसटी का ठीकरा वे खुद कांग्रेस पर ही फोड़ रहे हैं। देखना है कि इस चुनाव में क्या असर पड़ेगा। राज्यसभा टेलीविजन के लिए कैमरा पर्सन डीके पांडे और सुधांशु के साथ अखिलेश सुमन।
More election updates and other news coming up after this short break.
There is generally no drugs available against viral infections. There are very few drugs. We work on Japanese encephalitis virus, and we are trying to figure out how the initiation of the duplication of the genome happens. We also had a little bit of interest on how antibiotics work.
Watch Eureka with Dr. Deepak T. Nair, Associate Professor at Regional Center for Biotechnology at Faridabad, only on Rajya Sabha television.
Enter the majestic forecourt of Rashtrapati Bhavan and you'll come across the Jaipur column. A gift to the Viceroy from Savai Madho Singh, the Maharaja of Jaipur, to commemorate the creation of the new capital. The 145-meter high column is crowned with 6 pointed crystal stars on a bronze lotus, and inside the stone shaft runs a steel tube which weighs a little more than 5 tons. The base of the column has text conceived by Lord Irwin and Sir Edwin Lutyens inscribed on it.
The story we thought we knew. The story of magnificence. The story of bloody battles. Of those who ruled and those who left their footprints. The story charting the course of our past. Talking history on Rajya Sabha TV.
The prolific British poet and story writer Joseph Rudyard Kipling, one of the first masters of short stories in English. In 1894 appeared his Jungle Book, which became a children's classic all over the world. Kim, the story of Kimball O'Hara and his adventures in the Himalayas, is perhaps his most felicitous work published. Set in and concerned with India he had come to know and love so well. In 1907, Kipling became the first English language writer to receive the Nobel Prize for Literature.
Tales that inspire. Stories of social change. A salute to diversity. Promoting public discourse. Events that motivate. Inspiring the innovative spirit. Watch Rajya Sabha television documentaries.
Welcome back. Let's get you more election news, and this one's coming in from Gujarat. BJP President Amit Shah launched a week-long campaign in Polbound, Gujarat on Saturday. At the outset, Shah posed 5 questions to the Congress Vice President Rahul Gandhi. The questions revolved around the Narmada Dam project and UPA-era grants to the state. Shah's attack on the Congress leader came a day after Rahul Gandhi said that the reality of Gujarat was different from the one that BJP was portraying. He said this in Surat, and on Saturday, Shah began his week-long campaign with Kutch, Morbi and Surendranagar. Over the next 6 days, he will travel to 33 districts of the state. Shah's tour is being seen as a precursor to Prime Minister Modi's campaign in the second week of November. The state will hold 2 phased elections on the 9th of December and the 14th, while the votes will be counted on the 18th of December.
आगामी चूंटणीमां भारतीय जनता पार्टी प्रचंड बहुमत साथे फरी एकवार प्रदेशमां सरकार बनावशे અને 3/4 बहुमतीथी भारतीय जनता पार्टीनी सरकार गुजरातमां बनवा माटे जई रही छे.
In other news, Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu was in Hyderabad today to inaugurate the 10th Urban Mobility India Conference and Exhibition 2017. The 3-day conference will discuss the challenges relating to urban transport in India. Speaking at the event, the Vice President said an increased focus is needed for planning and design for suitable and clean urban mobility.
There's need to explore innovative means of financing major public transport system in India. Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu said this in his inaugural address at the 10th Urban Mobility India Conference in Hyderabad on Saturday.
Issuance of bonds and financing of one corridor through land value capture by Bangalore Metro is an example how agencies are trying to leverage and innovate means of financing. The land value capture policy recently issued by the Government of India cannot be adopted by various agencies with help and facilitation by the respective city and state governments.
The Vice President also stressed on the need to work towards strengthening mass transportation, promoting use of electric vehicles, retiring old vehicles, and ensuring parking places before a car is registered, at least in metro cities.
Urban accounts for about 25% of the greenhouse gas worldwide. It is also a major cause of local air and noise pollution in cities, which cause ill health. The traffic congestion created by the transportation system is responsible for significant economic and productivity costs for commuters and transporters. These challenges are more pronounced in cities of developing countries.
The Vice President also spoke about promoting non-motorized transport infrastructure for walking and using bicycle. The 2011 census shows the momentum of urbanization in India, with every third Indian living in an urban locality. This urbanization in an unplanned way is a hindrance to mobility systems across the country. To find solutions to this problem, around 1,000 policymakers from India and 25 other countries are discussing issues related to transport during the 3-day conference. Navikram Singh's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
In more national news, Army Chief General Bipin Rawat today recommended the country's highest civilian honour, Bharat Ratna, for independent India's first Army Chief, Field Marshal General K.M. Cariappa. The Army Chief said this as he unveiled the statues of Field Marshal Cariappa and General K.S. Timaya at the Kaveri College in Karnataka. He said there is no reason why Field Marshal K.M. Cariappa should not be considered a deserving personality for the honour. Cariappa was the first Indian Commander-in-Chief of the Army and was conferred the Field Marshal rank in April 1986. He was also a recipient of the Order of the British Empire, or the OBE, for his role in the Burma campaign against the Japanese during Second World War. Three people were killed and over a dozen injured in a stampede near Simariya Ghat on the banks of Ganga River in Bihar's Begusarai district on Saturday. The incident took place during the Kartik Purnima celebrations at the Ghat, where thousands of devotees gathered to take the holy dip. Bihar Chief Minister Nitish Kumar has announced a compensation of 4 lakh rupees for the families of those killed and free treatment for the injured. Sources said the death toll might go up.
कार्तिक पूर्णिमा के अवसर पर बहुत बड़ी संख्या में जो सिमरिया घाट है, बरौनी थाना अंतर्गत बेगूसराय जिला में जो पड़ता है, वहां पे लोग जमा हुए थे। हालांकि व्यवस्था का आकलन के आधार पर ही किया गया था, लेकिन फिर भी वहां पर भीड़ अत्यधिक होने के कारण और बगल में एक मंदिर भी है, उस वजह से भीड़ जब बढ़ी तो दम घुटने से 3 महिलाओं की मृत्यु होने की जानकारी प्राप्त हुई है।
भगदड़ हुआ है और जिन लोगों की मृत्यु हुई उनके परिजनों के साथ हम लोग हैं और काफी दुखद घटना घटी है और इसमें सारी चीजें जो हैं, पर्व त्योहार का जो अवसर आता है जिसमें भीड़ वगैरह के अंदेशा ज्यादा होते हैं, उसी हिसाब से प्रशासन को हर एक चीजों की तैयारी रखनी चाहिए थी इसमें।
Incessant rain lashed Chennai and its suburbs even on Saturday, affecting normal life. However, water receded a little, improving the situation as authorities and volunteers joined hands to manage the situation. Heavy rainfall inundated a significant portion of North Chennai, resulting in the death of 1 person due to a wall collapse, taking the overall death toll to 8. Schools and colleges remained shut on Saturday as well, and several university exams were postponed. The state-level National Talent Search exam scheduled for the day has also been deferred to the 18th of November. The Met Department has warned of intermittent heavy rain in coastal Tamil Nadu for Sunday as well. Meanwhile, the state government said that it is better prepared to face this year's rainfall, with 105 relief camps set up in Chennai alone. International news: and US President Donald Trump left on an 11-day trip to Asia, during which he will visit Japan, South Korea, China, Vietnam and the Philippines. Before heading to his 5-nation Asia tour, Trump made a 1-day stop in Hawaii and visited the USS Arizona Memorial at Pearl Harbor. It will be the longest Asia tour by a US president in 25 years.
US President Donald Trump on Saturday headed to Japan, the first stop in his 5-nation tour of Asia. Trump, who's on an 11-day trip to Asia, will arrive in Japan on Sunday. Besides Japan, he will visit South Korea, China, Vietnam and the Philippines. Joined by his wife Melania on the trip, Trump's tour of Asia will be the longest by an US president in 25 years. The trip comes at a time of heightened tensions with North Korea over its nuclear program and missile tests. Trump is reportedly expected to show a united front with Japanese against North Korea. Trump and Prime Minister Shinzo Abe are expected to reaffirm the usual message at their summit on Monday. On Friday, Trump flew to the US state of Hawaii, where he visited the USS Arizona Memorial at Pearl Harbor, the scene of the 1941 Japanese attack that drew the US into World War II. He also took part in a briefing at the US Pacific Command. Trump also met with the governors of Alaska, Hawaii and Pacific US territories. From Hawaii, Trump and First Lady Melania will head to Japan and then on to South Korea. After South Korea, he will go to China for a series of events, including meetings with President Xi Jinping to get tougher with Pyongyang. In Vietnam, Trump will attend the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit in Da Nang and make a state visit to Hanoi. His final engagement will be a summit of Southeast Asian nations in the Philippine capital, Manila. The last time a US president made such a marathon trip to Asia was when George H.W. Bush visited the region in late 1991 and early 1992. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha Television.
In more international news, a Spanish judge has issued European arrest warrants for sacked Catalan leader Carles Puigdemont and 4 of his allies who went to Belgium. The 5 failed to attend a High Court hearing in Madrid on Thursday, where 9 other ex-members of the Catalan government were taken into custody. The leaders all face charges of rebellion, sedition and misuse of public funds. Puigdemont has refused to return to Spain unless a fair trial is guaranteed. On its part, Belgium has said that it will study the warrant. Puigdemont and his colleagues have been raising the Catalan case for statehood at EU institutions. The sacked regional president said that he is not trying to evade real justice and that he would cooperate with Belgian judicial authorities. Puigdemont is also willing to run in the snap regional elections in Catalonia on the 21st December. The elections were called by the Spanish government. And finally, in some sports news, five-time world champion Mary Kom led the charge at the Asian Women's Boxing Championships by assuring herself a sixth medal on Saturday as three Indians enter the semi-finals of the Continental Showpiece event in Ho Chi Minh City of Vietnam. Advancing to the medal round along with Mary Kom was Shiksha in the 54 kilogram and Priyanka Chaudhary in the 60 kilogram categories. Mary Kom defeated Chinese Taipei's Meng Chaipin in a split verdict in the quarterfinals to make the last four stage of the light flyweight in the 48 kilogram category. The 34-year-old will face Japan's Tsubasa Komura in the semi-finals. Shiksha, who belongs to the Railway Sports Promotion Board, was up next for the country against Uzbekistan's Ferangiz Koshimova. She will face Chinese Taipei's Lin Yuting in the semi-finals. Priyanka too was the dominant force in her clash against Sri Lanka's Dulanjani Lankapurelage. That's it on the news at 6. Thanks so much for joining us. Have a good evening.